The Sergeant Major's Shadow. A day in Stuttgart. A threat across Europe. The most dangerous threat wasn't on the battlefield. It was already inside the routine. OPSEC Minute Extended. Episode 066. Prologue. Panzer Kaserne. 0530 hours. The Stuttgart sky was still dark. Streetlights reflected off damp pavement as a lone figure moved across the installation. No entourage, no ceremony, no fanfare. Just a Command Sergeant Major beginning another day. Command Sergeant Major Christopher Melendez adjusted the collar of his PT jacket as he crossed the nearly empty parking lot. At 44 years old, the Pennsylvania native carried himself with the calm confidence that only decades of service could produce. Combat engineer, cavalry scout, civil affairs leader, special operations veteran, doctor of education, husband, father, mentor, soldier, today looked ordinary. It wasn't, because somewhere in Europe, someone had already begun collecting pieces of a puzzle, photos, travel plans, family details, unit affiliations, housing information, exercise schedules, nothing classified, nothing secret, nothing illegal, just fragments. Fragments that, when assembled, would create a target package. And neither the collector nor the collected realized how close they were to collision. Act 1. A Leader's Walk. "Morning, Sergeant Major." Melendez smiled as he approached a young specialist jogging near the fitness center. "Morning. How's the family?" The soldier visibly brightened. "Good, Sergeant Major. My wife finally got settled into her new job." "Outstanding. Keep taking care of each other." Simple conversation. 30 seconds. Yet that was who Melendez was. Not a commander who sat behind doors, a leader who knew names, faces, families, problems. By Aero 700, he was already moving through multiple facilities: motor pools, barracks, work centers, child development center parking lots. He wasn't inspecting, he was connecting. Meanwhile, inside Garrison Headquarters, another familiar face entered the building. Colonel Edward Sanford, the garrison commander. Minutes later, Deputy Garrison Commander Robert Gwinner arrived carrying a cup of coffee and an armful of briefing folders. The trio met daily. Commander, Deputy, Command Sergeant Major, 3 different backgrounds, 1 mission, taking care of Stuttgart. "Morning, gentlemen," Sanford said. "Too early for your optimism, sir," Gwinner replied. Melendez laughed. "That's because he's had coffee." The room erupted in laughter. The chemistry was genuine. Years of leadership had taught them something important. People noticed culture. And culture started at the top. But as the meeting progressed, the mood shifted. DPTMS Director Kyle Curry appeared on screen. Beside him sat Acting Protection Chief and ATO Luke Fralick, Brian Buckner, and Sergeant First Class Kaylee Schrader. The security team. The topic? A growing trend. One that was beginning to concern multiple installations across Europe. OSINT exploitation. Open source intelligence. The modern battlefield of information. Fralick leaned forward. "We're seeing increased collection activity targeting military communities." "Foreign intelligence?" Sanford asked. Fralick shrugged. "Possibly. Criminal networks, activists, data brokers, maybe all 3. The room quieted. "How much information are people giving away?" Melendez asked. Taylor clicked a slide. The screen filled with social media screenshots, vacation photos, PCS announcements, unit celebrations, family check-ins, exercise countdowns, children's school events, household routines, not classified, yet dangerous. "Individually harmless," Taylor explained. "Collectively," he paused. A roadmap. Act 2. The European Perspective. Wiesbaden. IMCOM Europe Headquarters. Director Tommy Mize studied the briefing silently. A former engineer officer with decades of global experience, Mize had spent years understanding one fundamental truth. Infrastructure was important. People were critical. Across from him sat Command Sergeant Major Christopher Carbone, infantryman, ranger, combat veteran, senior enlisted advisor. The pair had recently been traveling extensively, visiting installations and reinforcing readiness across the IMCOM Europe enterprise. Carbone reviewed a series of intelligence products. His expression darkened. Same pattern? Same pattern. Families? Mostly. Carbone nodded slowly. That's what worries me. Mize leaned back. Not cyber intrusions? No. Carbone pointed at the screen. Trust. The room fell silent. You can patch software. You can replace hardware. But once someone convinces a soldier's spouse, child, or friend to share information, he shook his head. That's harder. The director smiled. That's why we're visiting Stuttgart next week. Carbone grinned. Good. Because I think Melendez is already on to something. Act 3. The day everything changed. 1300 hours. Patch Barracks Community Center. A spouse town hall was underway. Dozens of military family members sat listening to various presenters. DFMWR Acting Director Joe Johnson discussed summer activities. Chaplain Colonel David Kurland discussed resiliency. Red Cross representatives Peter Butner and Aaron Owsley shared emergency preparedness resources. Then came a seemingly innocent question. A spouse raised her hand. My daughter received a message from someone claiming to be conducting a military family survey. The room grew quiet. Did they identify themselves? Melendez asked. No. What did they ask? The spouse looked uncomfortable. Where we lived. What school she attended. When my husband was traveling. Silence. Complete silence. Across the room, James J.B. Brooks exchanged a glance with Alonzo Edwards. Both immediately recognized the danger. J.B. stood. Did you provide anything? No. Good. Did anyone else receive something similar? Hands slowly began rising. 1, 3, 7, 12. The room suddenly felt smaller. Much smaller. Melendez looked around. The implications were staggering. This wasn't random. Someone was mapping the community. Not hacking, not stealing, simply asking. And people were answering. Act 4. The Shadow Network. The emergency working group assembled immediately. J.B. Brooks, Alonzo Edwards, Andrew Williams, Arthur Blunt, Luke Fralick, Kaylee Schrader, Daniel Jimenez, Ed Otalora, Eric Frazier, Mikkel Rumphrey, Army counterintelligence agents. Every major security discipline was represented. Leading the CI team was Special Agent Rachel Kane, age 37, former linguist, counterintelligence veteran, known for noticing details others missed. Beside her sat Special Agent Marcus Voss, former cyber investigator, relentless, brilliant, dangerously patient. Kane displayed a map. Red dots appeared across Europe, Germany, Poland, Italy, Belgium, Romania, the Netherlands. Every dot represented contact attempts against military-connected families. Not espionage, not yet. Preparation, collection, pattern development, targeting refinement. Who's behind it? Sanford asked. Kane answered carefully. We don't know. State actor? Possibly. Criminal? Possibly. Extremist? Possibly. The room collectively groaned. That's not helpful, Gwinner said. Kane smiled. It's honest. Suddenly, another screen appeared. Andrew Williams had found something. Everyone needs to see this. A timeline emerged. Posts, photos, public comments, check-ins, travel announcements, sports events, school activities, every item individually harmless. Together, a complete profile. The room fell silent, because the profile belonged to a Stuttgart family, a family that had never realized they were exposing themselves. Melendez stared at the screen. His jaw tightened. This isn't about technology. No, Sergeant Major. It never was. Climax. The longest night. 3 days later. IMCOM, Europe leadership arrived in Stuttgart. Mise Carbone. Their visit was intended to discuss readiness, family support, and installation resilience. Instead, they found themselves standing inside a crisis response cell. The evidence was growing. The targeting activity was expanding. Yet no laws had been broken. No systems had been hacked. No networks breached. No secrets stolen. Only one thing had happened. People had shared too much. Late that evening, Melendez finally stepped outside. The air was cool. The installation was quiet. For the first time all day, he was alone. Almost. A voice came from behind him. "You look tired." Carbone. Melendez laughed. "You ever have one of those days where you realize the threat isn't where everyone thinks it is?" Carbone nodded. "Every day." The two senior NCOs stood in silence, watching the lights of Stuttgart flicker in the distance. Families sleeping, children dreaming, soldiers preparing for tomorrow, the community they served, the community they protected. Finally, Carbone spoke. "You know what scares me?" "What?" "The enemy doesn't need us to fail." Melendez turned. Carbone continued. "They just need us to get comfortable." The words hung in the air, because both men knew they were true. Epilogue. 2 weeks later, a new community awareness campaign launched across Stuttgart. Foreign travel, self-reporting, OSINT awareness, cyber hygiene, family security, OPSEC, insider threat prevention, not through fear, through education, through engagement, through leadership, through trust. The effort spread quickly, across schools, across organizations, across Europe, and for a time. The shadow seemed to recede, but elsewhere, far from Stuttgart, a monitor illuminated a dark room. A digital profile opened. The screen displayed a familiar image. A Stuttgart community member, a family member, someone connected to a mission partner. A cursor hovered over a growing collection of information: vacation plans, employment history, family connections, travel records, social media habits. The profile was incomplete, but not for long. A message appeared. Target package development, 78% complete. The cursor moved. Another file opened. This one carried a different label. Not family, not soldier, not civilian. The title simply read, Garrison Leadership. The screen froze. One name appeared, Melendez, Christopher B. Then another, Sanford, Edward J. Then another, Gwinner, Robert A. And finally, a new line appeared, one nobody expected, one that would change everything. Operation Ghost Mirror, Phase 2 authorized. The screen went black. Lesson learned. The greatest modern security threats often begin with information that appears harmless. A photo, a travel update, a school event, a family post, a location tag, a casual conversation. OPSEC is not solely about protecting classified information. It is about protecting patterns, routines, relationships, vulnerabilities, and readiness. As demonstrated throughout this fictional narrative, adversaries can assemble powerful intelligence pictures using publicly available information. Open source intelligence, OSINT, social engineering, foreign travel reporting, insider threat awareness, cybersecurity practices, and family education all remain critical components of force protection and community resilience. The strongest defense remains an informed community working together, because in today's environment, the question is no longer, what information is secret? The question is, What story can someone build from the information we freely share? Thank you for sticking around as we continue testing the boundaries of an extended storyboard. Think of it as security training with a plot twist, and a fresh way to both educate our team and connect with our military community. Subscribe to our YouTube I Secure Narratives channel, hit us with a like, and watch for our new updates. Also, if you have other suggestions or ideas, or are interested in a personalized name drop, or your work center's inclusion to our tales, don't hold back. Send a quick note to share your thoughts. We're all ears and ready to make things even better. So, until next Monday's OPSEC Minute Extended, keep those comments coming.